Welcome to the Farside channel. This is our series on business owner challenges. And today I am being joined by Natalie Rhodes. And Natalie has more than one business that is giving her challenges. Natalie is a virtual assistant with a inordinate amount of experience, and she helps people in managing their back office and keeping their business running smoothly without them having to worry about it. And then she started up a networking group as well, just to give you something extra to boost your business. So, Natalie, welcome. It's so awesome to have you with us today. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Tamryn. I'm really grateful, and it's wonderful to have this opportunity. Thanks very much.
So, tell us more about the Virtual Assistant Business Club.
Okay, so in a nutshell, Tamryn, that all started literally coming out of, sort of knocking on the doors of COVID. I started my business in 2020. At that stage, I was still residing in Zambia, but fast forward in 2021, came through back to South Africa and continued the business, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So just in a nutshell, a little bit about the business and what Virtual Assistant Business Club is all about. I partner with authentic service-based small business owners and entrepreneurs who have reached a level of success in their businesses and are ready to work with an online business manager to establish the right operational foundations and systems to scale sustainably. If anybody's out there who's wanting to expand their business with somebody who's results-driven and detail-orientated and committed to vision and values and highly skilled at facilitating strategic growth, the Virtual Assistant Business Club is here to give back your time and energy for you to focus on what you do best, and that's working in your zone of genius. What we as the Virtual Assistant Business Club offer is virtual assistant services, pretty basic, and it's a broad. It starts really from sort of email management, calendar management, travel arrangements, across the range to social media management, events coordinating, project management, newsletters, back-end websites, updating of all those kind of things, anything and everything that we can do from an administrative point of view to help and assist your business. As a small business owner, we can do that. So basically, our target market is small business owners, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and the main objective is allowing clients to delegate their tasks that they don't have to do. And this enables clients to focus on their core business while we take care of those tasks that are not their primary concern, improving their day-to-day efficiency of their office and their business.
Sure.
As the owner and founder of the Virtual Assistant Business Club, I'm passionate about adding value to my clients. And in addition, my main objective is to sustain long-lasting business relationships, be that with short or long-term projects. When you sign up with the Virtual Assistant Business Club, you will have the full support of me and my team's expertise to rely on across all aspects of your business, and that's a guarantee. We offer a variety, as I mentioned earlier, on a variety of specialist virtual assistant services. All roles involve a high level of operational and personal interface skills, enabling us to immerse ourselves in your core business and sometimes in your personal life, because sometimes as a virtual assistant, you're dealing with people's personal lives as well. Mm-hmm. Be that messaging and phoning, arranging things, anything from having your laundry collected or having flowers sent. I'm just elaborating now on the personal aspect of things. But in a nutshell, having an in-house sort of office assistant, but not in-house, if that makes any sense.
Perfect sense. And it's so funny because this is a series of business owner challenges, and so many of the things you listed are massive challenges for business owners. And it really does make a big difference to have someone handling those things for you. And I know, because I've known you personally for quite some time now, that you take it very seriously. You take your work very personally. And
I do.
You really strive to do a good job for every single client. And so that leads me to ask you, what your challenges are, because as someone who takes their work so personally and you're doing such a broad level of service, you must have encountered some challenges along the way in building that up.
Well, I have. And I said, first and foremost, as I mentioned, the business started in 2020 with no cash flow. So coming out of the corporate world where you were working from month to month, paycheck to paycheck, so there wasn't capital. So that was the one dilemma. So starting off from scratch. And the other dilemma was finding clients. Finding clients and knocking on the doors and putting your name out there. Now, everybody will tell you in the virtual assistant game is go to your ex-employees, go to friends, go to family. So I did that exercise. It's great and it does work, but it doesn't get you business. It just gets you the exposure and letting people know that you're out there. And yes, people do tell other people do share like you did, which was great. People do, I post stuff on Facebook over the years and friends will forward stuff on. And you have had one or two inquiries. In fact, quite a few inquiries I've had over the years and what have you. So that's been great, but it's not having the budget to market yourself. So that's one of the challenges as a small business owner. The other big challenge is when you meet a client, and this is really going to be a sensitive subject, but when you meet a client and you know they're not a good fit for you,
Yes.
and that is a big challenge, is turning it down. And so what I have in the last 3 years now come to work out and sift through it all on how to manage that is to say, basically, this is what I charge, and invariably that is normally sort of the deciding factor of whether or not the client will use you or not. So it's not quite like putting myself completely out of the ballpark, but it's just knowing that instead of saying no to the client, which would become rude, or you also have people that say, how can you turn business down in these current economic times? But sometimes taking on that client can actually be detrimental to your business. And fortunately, I haven't had too many of those train smashers, but where they have come about, they have ended pretty quickly, knowing full well that it's not going to be a good fit for my business. So that's one of the other challenges. And then lastly, the biggest challenge that I've had of late, and I think we spoke about it recently, you and I, is people or clients wanting to always ask you to drop your price. Now, this is a difficult one for me because it's not about arrogance and it's not about I don't know how to put it across without sounding that I have that I feel that I'm more than anybody else. I don't know if that's the right word that I'm looking for, but with X amount of experience and how you deal with things, even how you draft an email, or when you're dealing in the virtual assistant game. I have a client in the States at the moment, and I'm dealing directly with some of her clients. How I draft that email, how I interact with it. We had a really important meeting about 3 weeks ago, and irony of ironies, she's actually struggling with her client herself, but and I came into play as a third party in the meeting, and those walls came down. So what I'm trying to say to you is the level of experience that I bring and the value that I add into those meetings comes at a price. And it's just sad that we are currently in the times that we are in at the moment where clients will try and knock you down. And I would strongly, what's the word I'm looking for, suggest that people don't do that, because invariably you have problems down the line. Get paid for what you're worth. I'm looking at 38 years of experience now, most of it around the corporate table, but now running my own business. I think I'm worth every cent. So that's been my challenge on the virtual assistant side.
Well, I love the fact that the challenge you're facing actually highlights a challenge you've solved that most business owners face, and it is recognizing their value. Because most business owners battle to recognize their value, and then they're easily pushed into discounting or dropping their prices because they desperately need the business, or they think they desperately need the business. And knowing your value is so important, because you're 100% correct. When you do drop your prices, and it particularly for a client that you maybe know isn't the best fit, but you think you're desperate for business and you say yes, it always ends up in disaster. I know from my personal experience, every single client I took on for the money was a disaster. Every single time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I had to learn the same thing. First of all, that not every client is for you. You're not for every client. You know, people
Mm,
need to work with people they resonate with. And if you're
absolutely.
not resonating with that client, they're probably not actually resonating with you, whether they recognize it or not. And that's not going to go well. And if people don't recognize your value, if they don't value what you're bringing to the table, it's not going to go well either. So those are two very
Absolutely.
important things that you've overcome without realizing it, maybe, even though they have presented other challenges for you in terms of getting the clients on board.
Yeah. And but then on the other side of the spectrum as well, Tamryn, you've got the great clients that pay you on a retainer and in some instances hardly use you and they treat you so well, you
Mhm.
know. So I'd also want to like to highlight that as well. So you get the really good clients that do fit you, your values and how you work, etc., etc., and respect you, and do pay. And that's phenomenal. So that's really, really great. So
Yeah, there's always
um,
two sides,
I
hey?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah, so those have been my challenges. And then, again, so the biggest thing was trying to find clients. Um, and then out of that was where Pomegranate Business Speed Networking was birthed. So, if you'd like, I can go ahead and tell you about that. So, I was knocking on the doors looking for clients abroad. And being South African, it's common sense and business practice to want to be able to get the dollar and pound. When you're looking at our current exchange rate and our current economy, as a virtual assistant, it makes business sense. For more reasons than one as well. You and I have had this discussion before, is that on the African continent, pre-COVID, everyone had heard about a virtual assistant. We all know virtual assistants have existed in the West and in Australia since the 80s, in fact, the late 70s, and people have been making use of them, but not so much on the African continent. And sadly, people and the employers on the African continent are very much still onto the micromanaging. So they want to see you in the office, they want to see you do the job, and also they only want to pay you afterwards. Whereas the virtual game works the other way around. A, you're not in the office, and B, you get paid before you start working. So if, as you know, we offer services of you buy 5 or 10 hours from us up front, and only once you've bought those hours do we start commencing work. And so that was the other challenge I had on the African continent, was not very, very few people are willing to pay for a service in advance where you haven't even started working yet. Whereas people in Europe and in the States and Australia already know how that all works. And so for them, it's not a mind bubble.
Yeah.
And so started networking abroad and going to networking events to market myself and my services. And then one day I just had because I was about 6 months into this whole game of networking. And I just had a bit of an epiphany. Also having come back home and seeing for myself why everybody was struggling on the ground level, actually seeing the unemployment rate that we've got in this country. I know the stats are XYZ in writing. I think they're not accurate. The last thing that I saw a couple of weeks ago, they said it was sitting at 29%. I think it's between 29 and 35%. I actually think it's a little bit higher in terms of South African unemployment rate. And so, I know everybody was struggling, other than myself. I know that a lot of South Africans were struggling. So I decided to create this platform, an affordable platform, very, very affordable platform, where I host 2 networking groups every week on a Wednesday at 9 o'clock in the morning and at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Many people ask me, why do you host 2? Now, initially, it started out, or it was just the 2 o'clock one, and then I started the 9 o'clock one, and that was to accommodate the Australians because of the time zones. But what subsequently has happened, because of our power problems that we're having in South Africa, it now makes sense to keep the 2, because not everybody can make 9 o'clock because of the power cuts, and they can then come to the 2 o'clock. So it's trying to accommodate them there. So in terms of challenges facing for Pomegranate, not that I'm experiencing it, but my fellow South Africans are experiencing it, is to try and accommodate them there. So yeah, we have real challenges that we, as you and I, Tamryn, are facing in this country right now. We've got to work around to keep our small businesses operational. And my heart goes out to small business because every day I'm reading about it. You go onto your feeds, onto Facebook, and you see that people are shutting things down. People are saying, I don't know how to keep myself going anymore. So Pomegranate was birthed for that exact reason. So it's a global platform. And the idea again is for the likes of yourself and me to be able to network your business across the big pond to people in the UK or the States or in Australia to let them know about your business. And so that's how that was birthed. The biggest challenge I have is people, again, don't necessarily want to pay for that platform. And it is very affordable. It's only 250 Rand a month for 8 meetings a month. I am possibly relooking at remodeling the whole model, where if you can't afford to pay for the monthly fees, that you just maybe pay for the meeting and make it maybe 50 Rand for that meeting. But I haven't quite got to that, and I'm working on that at the moment. But just to make, again, a third option of making it affordable for our fellow South Africans to be able to market themselves and get themselves out there. Also, obviously, I'm wanting to create more of a vibe and have more people attend, so that makes it worthwhile for those that are coming to the event, so that they want to come to the event. But I get a lot of good feedback from it, and a lot of people are really enjoying it. They like the space, they like the positiveness, they like the fact that it's informal and relaxed. They also like the fact that there's no checklists. Nobody has to come along and give me, I don't ask anybody to come back and tell me how many meetings you've had with anybody afterwards, what your success rate was. I ask nothing of that. It's very, very relaxed. The idea is about you pitching yourself, not necessarily doing the hard sale, but the opportunity is for you to then get, the contact details of that respective person that you may have an interest in doing business with, and meeting outside of the meeting. So that's the main objective. And then you go from there. So people like that. They like that there's no sort of teacher feedback kind of, scenario. So they're very happy with that. But again, with Pomegranate, the challenges have been is trying to grow the numbers. And I think coming out of COVID, where the numbers were not too bad, I think at one stage I had 24, 28 at one of the meetings, was the highest that I ever had. But the challenge now is that people have been so closed indoors for the last 2.5 years, and they're just wanting to get out, that the numbers have gone down. But I know it's not just my network, it's everybody's network. But these things are cyclical, and they go, there are cycles, and it will pick up again. I know it will. So yeah, it's just the numbers are attending the actual platform on a Wednesday.
Well, I attend every time I can because I love Pomegranate. I think it is the most amazing space. You feel very comfortable and happy, and I have met some fascinating people, and I've not necessarily made any business out of it, but I just love meeting these people. I mean, some of them are so inspiring. I've met with people, living all over the world, and the one lady is she counsels people who've been given a cancer diagnosis because she lived through a cancer diagnosis, which was awful, and and just the resulting trauma for her and her business, and now she helps other business owners to go through that resulting trauma, and that's so inspiring in itself. It just makes you rethink and look at the world differently, and that's just one person that I met through your platform. So I think it's an amazing tool for business owners.
Thank you. Yeah, I say this every week, and I think you would have heard me say it. I said about Yannick and I, it's an absolute highlight of our week. It breaks up our week from the VA side of things, and just adds a little bit of a mix in our week, which is great. And like you say, you meet these incredible people that come out of nowhere. And again, we've got people from Ghana and Nigeria, and so it's not just from the States and from the UK and whatever you, but just having that dynamic of mix it and just learning about people, and also the fun facts about people. Everybody's got something interesting about themselves, which I just absolutely love. So it is the highlight of my week, and I love it. I absolutely love it, and I'm going to keep it going regardless. Even if there's only one person that comes to the event, I'm going to just keep Pomegranate going and going and going. So it's a great value add to my business and to everybody else.
It's amazing. I love it. So Natalie, my last question is, what advice would you give a new business owner who's about to open their business? So based on the challenges you have faced, what advice would you give them to try and make it a little bit easier for them? What do you wish you
Yeah,
had known before you started? Put it that way.
well, a couple of things is, when I had a look at your brief that you sent me, one of the things is, what you mentioned mental health. And I think depending, on your circumstances, again, it's difficult when you're still in business owner, because sometimes life throws us a couple of curveballs which are unexpected. So we don't always have that perfect scenario like myself where, you find yourself unemployed, having to start something on your own and there's no cash flow. But if I can give a bit of advice, if you can at least start your business with a little bit of capital in the bank, if you saved a little bit of your salary income that you had. A lot of people say try start something on the side. If you can maybe try start the virtual assistant game on the side. I don't really like you to use the word hustle. Everyone uses it as a side hustle because I take my job quite seriously. I don't think virtual assisting it's not like multi-level marketing where you're selling a cream or an oil or something like that. This is somebody's business that you're going to be dealing with. So take it seriously if you're going to do it as a part-time thing, and then build it up slowly, maybe before you transition from leaving your permanent job to being self-employed. But again, circumstances prevail, and sometimes it's out of your control. But that would be a little bit of my advice. And the other thing is network like a boss. You got to just network. You really, really have to. I always say this to everybody that comes to my platform. You might come to this meeting today and not meet a single person that can add any value to your business at all. But that person will introduce or go to another networking meeting, and your name will come into their mind, and that will be a light bulb, and they can do an introduction by email. And I often do that as well. I'll go to another networking meeting and somebody will say, I need XYZ. And I'll go, oh, somebody said, oh, I'm looking for speakers. And I'll put them in touch with so-and-so who, whatever. I'm looking for a speaking event and put them in touch with so-and-so. And so I'm just giving a random example. But yeah, network like a boss, network. And it's time. You're going to make the time for that. And what have you? Just network. And we've got this wonderful tool nowadays of internet. You don't physically have to climb in your car. You don't have to park. You don't have to worry about all of those expenses or whatever. Just your internet. As long as you've got internet connectivity, a Zoom, Teams meeting, you can attend these networking events to get your business out there.
That's excellent advice. Thanks, Natalie. It really is. It's especially the capital. Very few people realize what it takes to run a business and how long it takes to get your first client. People often think they're going to get their first client in the first month, and if you're lucky, you do, but it takes time. And I know it's number 3 in the reasons why businesses fail is not having enough startup capital. So you've done really well, let me tell you, to last as long as you have. Sorry, I think.
Hi, we lost each other. It just froze for a second.
Yeah, sorry, I think it's one of our challenges here in South Africa. There's load shedding happening somewhere, clearly, with the signal.
Yeah, you were saying about finding your first client, and it just took me back to when I found my first client. And actually he found me via LinkedIn. And he actually connected with me, he inboxed me, and he's from Israel, and he was looking for somebody to help with projects in Zambia. And I still have that client. So that was, it's now nearly 2 years down the line. So I still have that client.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
and a good testament.
My saving grace. Yeah, no, he's been my saving grace, to be quite honest. But yeah, he found me on LinkedIn. And
Wonderful.
And so it does pay off to do the social media thing and put your name out there and let people know that you exist, etc., etc. But yeah, it is very difficult to find that first client. And also, the other thing I wanted to say as well, as a virtual assistant, you never have enough clients. One of the biggest fears is that you fill yourself up too much, but you know what? Sometimes clients only have short projects, and that project's going to end. You've got to just keep having those clients flowing the whole time. And it's to manage that, which is crucial. So yeah.
Yeah, managing a pipeline and then managing the work is two very important things for any business owner. If you stop managing one of them, then you're going to end up in trouble. So, yeah, it's good advice as well. Thanks, Natalie. And speaking of putting your name out there, if anyone is watching and they go, I want Natalie to be my back office manager, what is the best way for them to contact you?
There's a couple of ways. Is my website, which is www.thevirtualassistantbusinessclub.com. And then Pomegranate is also www.pomegranatebusinessnetworking.com. I am on LinkedIn, I am on Facebook, so they can find me on Instagram as well. Those are the three preferred social media platforms that I use. So they will be able to find me there. And then also, well, on my website, you'll be able to get my email addresses. You can drop me an email and I can set up an appointment with you, drop in my calendar link. We can have a Zoom meeting and go. So
Wonderful. Lots of ways to get a hold of you. So I'm going to put some of those under the video to make it really, really easy so people can literally just click links and they will find you. And I do encourage anyone who is feeling a bit overwhelmed and they're not managing to balance what they're good at with running their business to give Natalie a shout, because I know from personal experience she takes her job seriously, she takes it very personally, and you could not partner with a better person to take your business forward. So if you are in that position, give Natalie a shout. Otherwise, Natalie, thank you so much for chatting to me today. I really enjoyed the chat, and I think there was some really good advice for other business owners there. So thank you.
Thanks, Tamryn. Thanks for having me. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much.